This is InfoCheck, your weekly look at disinformation and its impact on democracy, produced in partnership with Pen Plus Byte. I'm Francis Boniface. In this episode, we ask, are fact-checking and media literacy enough to fight disinformation? My guest is Maxine Danso from the Center for Journalism Innovation and Development, one of the leading voices in fact-checking across the region. Maxine, welcome to InfoCheck.
Thank you for having me, Francis.
Now, Maxine, despite the rise of fact-checking platforms, misinformation and disinformation keep spreading. Why is it still so persistent?
It's pretty much like asking that, why do people still lie? Despite you knowing that you'd rather, have people tell the truth, but people still choose to lie. You can look at it that way. Yes, there are a number, if I may, a lot of fact-checking organizations all over the world, but yet you still have the persistence of falsehood or false information all over. I think it's the nature of how fast false information goes. I wouldn't say people are not aware. People are aware that fact checkers are doing the work. But it's just because falsehood also sells. Francis, I'd have you know that people are actually monetizing false information. And so despite the knowledge that, some people are actually very much aware. That's what you call disinformation, because it's an intentional spread of false information. They are very much aware. Not that they don't know, they are very much aware that this is false, but they still choose to, spread it because false information is being now monetized. People are making like billions out of false information, and the platforms are actually enabling these things because when you go viral, you get paid. And so why would I put something that is not as sensational out where I don't get the eyeballs, rather than putting something else that will create a buzz that people will engage with, and then I can make money off it. So that's just one to look at it. Beyond it being, a business or a means of, eroding democracy across states. This is just a simpler overview of why it still persists, even though there are a lot of fact-checking organizations around. It's become a money-making venture for a lot of people.
So there is an economic aspect.
Exactly. So there definitely is an economic gains in disinformation. There's an economic part of it that is also still fueling why it still thrives. Yeah.
Then could we be wrong? Because every time at the expert level, people talk about disinformation or misinformation also, they talk of it from a very structured point of view, as if it's a well laid out plan. From what you're describing now, it looks like someone could sit in his home and just for economic reasons decide to disinform or misinform the public. So that means the way we approach the fight against disinformation itself is probably faulty.
I wouldn't say faulty, but I would say that we need to innovate around the way we are fighting misinformation and disinformation. Why, you'd ask? Because like you rightly said, people can sit in their home and fabricate things that are not true whatsoever. And again, as you know, we're in the age of, information manipulation, thanks to artificial intelligence, tools that enable you to fabricate photos, videos, what have you. And so this is making it a lot more easier than before, where I can have you, Francis, sitting here, take a nice photo of you and just, Photoshop your head off and put someone else's head on your body and, sell it off as that, guess who was in my house today? Right. And so it's made things easier for these bad actors to do. So it's become something that is actually structured, like you put it, like you rightly said, structured where it's probably on their to-do list. On the to-do list to take off today, fabricate a story, fabricate an image, fabricate a video, push it out there, make money off it. So this is how it's appearing now. And when I talk about the better approach at being innovative, is because things are evolving. The way that false information is spreading is not just, verbal. It's also now multimedia content. And so we equally need to also innovate around these aspects where, we are taking fact checking a step further. The innovation I'm talking about here is that now, thanks to AI, if people are manipulating photos, if people are manipulating videos, we equally also need to up our game with finding the right tools, the right technology that can help us, address some of these multimedia content that are fabricated. And so you'd hear people in the space talk a lot about open source intelligence tools that would help you to be able to verify whether a photo is fabricated or whether a video is fabricated. And so when I speak of an innovative approach to debunking falsehood, this is sort of the idea that we have when we speak about that. Yeah.
Are we yet at the stage of having an information war?
I dare say, Francis, that we're already there. We're already having battling with what is true and what is not true. Fighting bad actors. Even taking it a step further, beyond just debunking what is true and what is not true, looking at the coordinated efforts of these bad actors, because, like I mentioned earlier, it's beyond just, this wasn't true, or this was true. We need to go and find who is behind this. Why are they doing this? What do they aim to achieve from this? To what end? All of that, all those pieces, when we try and put them together, gives us a more informed, perspective of why this information, like the question you rightly asked from the beginning, why disinformation or misinformation continues to thrive. And so thanks to analysis like that, we're able to tell that, yes, there's definitely money to be gained from it.
Now, one of the most interesting things about the Pen Plus Byte Disinformation Index report is Ghana, and you are Ghanaian. Yeah. So this
I was actually at the launch,
Wow,
the Disinformation Index launch. Yeah.
This means you have as much insights as needed. Yeah. Now, one of those key insights is that more than half of Ghanaians do not know of any fact-checking platform. Why do you think it's that low?
Okay, I'm going to attempt to answer that, but it's not scientifically proving, so I must just give that caveat. Perhaps it's because there are not a lot of fact-checking organizations in Ghana. In the elections last year, December 2024, in Ghana, there was a coalition of fact-checking organizations. The three main fact-checking organizations were only three, that came together to fight false information during the elections. And so look at that number as against the plethora of false information that could circulate during the season. Just three fact-checking organizations having to fight all of that canker in the society. It's not enough. And I sometimes I get the sense that there's also the apathy against the media. Because, well, in a broader sense, fact-checking organizations form part of the media sanitizing the information echo space. So I would say that perhaps people are also very apathetic about the whole concept of fact-checking because they feel like, you may be politicized or you may not be as neutral as you claim you are, or, who's funding you? There are all those many layers to why people would have that resistance to fact-checking organizations. But I do think that people know, because I'll tell you what, during the elections in Ghana in 2024, people really, really appreciated the work of fact-checkers because there were so many falsehoods being thrown all around in the information space that people were really grateful for the facts being put out there.
You talked about the plethora of disinformation out there, and it just gets me wondering. Much of fact-checking is done in English, right, in Anglophone countries, in French, in Francophone countries. Little or nothing is done in African languages. Do you think that gap is a problem? Because it looks like there is a whole lot of African languages being used on social media, and it is not being fact-checked.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Francis. You're absolutely right. And increasingly, fact-checking organizations we have we have identified this problem. Before, you would have fact checks primarily done as like a written text published on the website. But now we're trying to get to the people in the language they understand. And I use that metaphorically. In the language they understand, because we've done the survey and we've understood that locals in every country that speak indigenous language would rather, Africans, well, I speak for Ghana, but most Africans have a very oral culture where they would rather hear, they would rather speak than read. This has got nothing to do with being uneducated. They would just rather, we just have a very oral culture, right? And so that oral culture translates into our preference for radio. When we were young, you'd have your grandmother gather you around like a bonfire and tell you stories, so that sort of lifestyle translates into how we rather prefer listening to radio than like maybe perhaps reading a newspaper, And so one way we are trying to tackle that is using that knowledge of how we prefer to interact or engage with the media to reach the locals. And so you would find that we would partner with local radio stations and have local versions of our fact checks being broadcast in these on these radio stations. And I'll give you so many examples. We did that CJID, we did that in Ghana. The lead up to the elections, we partnered with Adom FM, multimedia group of companies. We partnered with Adom FM, all of that. In Liberia, we did the same thing during the by-election in Nimba, and Nimba is not, there's a bit of a digital divide where you would not typically expect someone in Nimba go on your website and read your fact check. And so we translated all our fact checks into local Liberian pidgin English and broadcast them on radio stations. So again, back to innovation. These are some of the ways that we are trying to reach the underserved communities with the truth and with the facts that they need to hear.
Maxine Danso, thank you for coming on InfoCheck.
Thank you so much, Francis. It was really lovely being here.
Thank you. InfoCheck is produced in partnership with Pen Plus Byte, using findings from the Disinformation Index report. I'm Francis Boniface. Thanks for listening. And remember, media literacy begins with asking the right questions. And don't forget, stay critical.